Всем привет, меня зовут Abdelrahman, но если это сложно, можно просто Abdel. Я фронт-энд разработчик и пока не так хорошо говорю по-русски, поэтому продолжаю по-английски. Okay, so today we're going to talk about my work in improving the Snakeskin development experience using LSP. So first of all, what is Snakeskin? For those who do not use it here, I have to say there is no animal cruelty. We're not actually skinning any snakes, don't worry. It's a templating language developed by Andrei Kobets. And yeah, it's an open source project. It is used in the front end of Edadeal and LSP. Development of Snakeskin started over 10 years ago in January 2013, which is like 3 years before LSP was even a standard. More on that later. And yeah, this is the Snakeskin mascot, Frank. So how does the development experience of Snakeskin currently look like? When we compare it to other programming languages that we use in general, like TypeScript, for example, it is a lot worse. It is basically just black and white. Yeah, I use light theme. Which makes it very difficult to catch mistakes, for example, even parsing mistakes or basically any mistakes because there is nothing there. To be fair, there is very basic syntax highlighting, but yeah, I turned it off for dramatic effect. So let's address this difficulty. What are the challenges that we have? First of all, the existing compiler code base is absolutely not reusable. Basically, the interface of the compiler kind of looks like this. We just have one function compile that takes the template and gives us back as a string the result. This is definitely not suitable for an interactive environment such as editors. It does not give us any information about the abstract syntax tree or anything that we can use for the editor experience. Additionally, we need to support multiple IDEs because we have developers coding in VS Code, in JetBrains like WebStorms or IntelliJ, even in NeoVim. For some reason, they hate themselves, but okay. And also, Snakeskin is a macro language on top of JavaScript, which means we also have to support JavaScript code inside Snakeskin files, which means supporting parsing it and basically all of the language features that you expect in JavaScript. So that's another layer of difficulty. There are also so many ways of doing the same thing in Snakeskin, multiple different syntaxes, for example, interpolation and so on. And it's also indentation sensitive, which makes it a little more difficult to parse than other languages, but it's fine. We can work with that. So how did I approach this problem? Well, basically, if you avoid the problem long enough, you can kind of avoid it forever. Right? But no, by that I mean that we're limiting the scope of the problem because we can do that since Snakeskin 8, version 8 is planned and it should have first-class support for LSP and for all of the editor features that we need. So our target for now is to do the best possible improvement in using the least amount of effort possible. So with that, we can just limit the scope. For example, we're supporting only one kind of syntax called Jade-like. It's the one that we use in Edadeal. For now, I'm not parsing any JavaScript embedded in Snakeskin. I treat it as just a string that I pass it along. And basically, we only care about the actual features of Snakeskin used in Edadeal code. Any features that Snakeskin supports but are not used in our code base are ignored for now. And for that, of course, it's fine to just use Castelli wherever we need because who cares? Snakeskin version 8 is coming soon anyway. This is a temporary project just to improve the current experience. So yeah, I even hard-coded some filters and some of the functionality that should be dynamic, but in Edadeal is basically static. So yeah, that's hard-coded. And to be able to support multiple IDEs, I used the language server protocol. So this language server protocol was developed by Microsoft, I think in 2016, as a solution to the problem of having to support M languages in N IDEs. Basically, before that's how it looked. If you developed a language, you needed to add plugins specific to each IDE, how to support that language. And similarly, if you're developing a new IDE and you wanted to support these languages, you had to code them one by one. So Microsoft developed LSP, which is based on the JSON remote procedure call protocol. And basically, if you're developing a language server, you only have to support this protocol. And then any editor, which is almost any popular editor nowadays that supports LSP, will support your language out of the box. Okay, so how does it look like? Let's see an example. This is the basic communication that happens between the editor. The client in this case is the editor itself, and the server is your language server. So basically, let's say VS Code sends me a request called text completion in this text document in this specific position. So basically, the user hit command space or control space or whatever to trigger auto completion. And then my server will respond with the following. For example, in this, we can write print and some documentation about it. Okay, but to use LSP, I do not have to write all of this JSON RPC from scratch. There are already, of course, packages written for it. To start with, it can be implemented in any language, thanks to JSON RPC being, just a protocol, not something specific to a particular language. And for all of the IDEs, you need just a thin wrapper to tell it, this is my language server. Go use it and use LSP with it. That's all you need to configure it for the different IDEs. And yeah, as I said, there are already packages and frameworks for using it. For example, VS Code Language Server by Microsoft, and many other frameworks that basically build on top of this one, because this is the one that implements the basic protocol. So there is no point in re-implementing it from scratch. That's the actual implementation. So all of the other packages built on it. For example, there is Voller, which is, if you've used Vue.js, you know that the new extension version was called Voller, but then they abstracted it to a framework for developing extensions in general for embedded languages. But it has very poor documentation. It's not easy to use. Then I found Langium, which was just the tool we needed. Langium is an all-in-one framework for developing your domain-specific languages in TypeScript. And it has first-class support for LSP, which also means that it's a tool for engineering languages in general, even outside LSP. Like you can have it, it gives you the CLI, it gives you an interface that you can basically use with any other interface you develop yourself, but it also gives LSP out of the box, and it's maintained by the Eclipse Foundation. So we know it's not just some graduation project that will be thrown away in a year or two, like it's seriously maintained by them. And the nice thing about it is you write the grammar in extended Backus-Naur form notation, and it automatically generates so many defaults for many different LSP features. Let's see an example. This is my grammar definition. Of course, not Snakeskin, just an example language. We define some tokens. Don't worry about that. Just single line comment, multi-line comment, identifiers, and so on. And we have two things in this language. We can define a person with an identifier, and we have a greeting for this person. Just by defining this grammar, it can do reference resolution, because I told it here, I need this to be a reference to the person. So it resolves the reference and gives me errors when it cannot resolve it. It gives me autocomplete when it knows that this should be a person. Then it gives me autocomplete from the list of persons in this file. It gives me go to definition. When I command click on John, it takes me to where it's defined. And it even has hover information for JSDoc. All of that just from this grammar file, which is amazing. Of course, for more complicated languages, it's difficult, such as Snakeskin, for example. We have to implement many of these features manually, but it still helps a lot with the APIs it provides. So for now, in Snakeskin, we have implemented a parser that will help you find basic parsing mistakes, basic syntax errors, and some simple validations, such as, for example, detecting if you've missed a vertical bar between attributes, possibly, detecting non-existing imports. If you have an import that does not point to a valid file, we give an error. We have basic hover information, so on some macros like file name, and on all HTML and Vue elements and attributes, we have hover information for all of them. And currently we also have go to definition for imports, and soon we will also have them for templates, hopefully. And while working on this, I needed to contribute a lot to Langame itself, because, for example, Langame, the grammar did not support indentation-sensitive languages, and Snakeskin is indentation-sensitive, so that's actually the top PR there. I contributed to Langame, an indentation-sensitive tokenizer and lexer. And by the way, after all of these pull requests, they made me a contributor on the repo directly, so yay. And what is next? Currently, there is a work in progress pull request for converting Snakeskin to TypeScript, not for the purpose of execution, but simply for the purpose of getting better IDE hints. Because if I convert it to TypeScript and then I call the TypeScript compiler on this file and tell it, give me basically all information that you give the editor, and then I just forward them to the editor. And with basic source maps, I can map from the Snakeskin location to the TypeScript location. So that's a very big pull request, a very big task. And it will help us get much more validations. It will help get more go-to definitions, so many language features that are already implemented in TypeScript, and we can try to reuse them somehow. I also plan to write a code formatter so that we can avoid style issues and style comments and merge requests. We'll just have one opinionated formatter. Maybe also snippets would be useful, but yeah, that one is the top priority. And you can find all details in these links. The slides will be shared later. The source code, it's open source, by the way, just like Snakeskin itself. We have a VS Code extension, we have a JetBrains plugin, and a NeoVim plugin, but it's found in the GitHub repo. And I would like to give special thanks to Dima Brovka for encouraging me to work on this big task and giving me time of other tasks to focus on it. And Rekobit, of course, for developing Snakeskin and also for spending time explaining a lot of the internals of how it works to me. And definitely to Maxime for integrating it into Vim and contributing to public Vim configurations to add Snakeskin support to them. And definitely for reporting any bugs. So yeah, like I said, there is a lot to finish. And if you would like to help me, if you'd like to join on this adventure, just text me anytime and we can work on this together. Спасибо за внимание.